Hey y'all and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to draw the back runway walk croquis. But if you haven't completed the template for the front runway croquis, go ahead, pause this video, jump over to that one. I'll leave a link for it below. Finish that template and come back to this one. Once you have your front runway walk croquis template, you're going to take it and actually first you're going to grab a sheet of paper, fold it in half, and then make your tick marks at the top and the bottom of those fold lines. So one tiny tick mark at the bottom of the paper and one tiny tick mark at the top of the paper. That's just so that way you have a guideline of where to line your paper up when you trace. Then we'll take our template and flip it over to the back. Grab your loose paper and place it on top of that template. And then you'll want to tape it down just to keep it secure. And just make sure you align your paper with the tick marks that you made to that center front line of your original drawing. Then you'll want to trace your croquis, but just trace along the outside lines. So trace the outer lines of your croquis. Once you hit the neckline, you're going to make 2 parallel straight lines. That's going to represent the back of your neck. And just keep going with tracing along the outside lines. For your arms, you'll only want to trace out one on each side. So for the left, I'm picking the hidden arm, and the right, I'm picking the arm that's flared out from the body. And then you'll want to make sure you draw your waistline in as well. And this first set of arms that we're tracing out is marked off in orange. On your original front croquis sketch, if you use colors to differentiate your arms, it'll be whatever color you chose to separate those sets. Okay, let's keep going along the outside of the hips on both sides. And then follow along on the legs. And right where the crotch comes to a point, you're going to trace along that dominant leg all the way down to the bottom to the feet. Once you get down to the feet, you're going to draw a straight line across that little corner. And then at the very top of what looks like a triangle, you're going to draw a circle with 2 tiny parallel lines above it and then 2 parallel lines straight down. And boom, you have the back of your high heel shoe. We're going to go back up to the top of our drawing and start drawing our style lines in. So for the top of the neckline, you're just going to draw a line straight across and trace out the center line and trace both princess lines. Now this is your back, so you're not going to draw the bust in. So just remember that. Same on the bottom where your hips will be. You're going to draw the center line down. And then you're going to make 2 wide U's for the bum. You're going to go along the outside of that underwear line. To draw your back underwear, you're going to start at that line on the side where the front one begins, and then bring your line to the middle of the bum. And then go ahead and trace your princess lines all the way down on both sides to the bottom of that underwear line. Before we finish up the legs, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Let's drop down to our legs where the knees would be. For the back knee creases, you're going to make 2 letter H's. So letter H's with long middles, one on each leg. Next, I'm going to show you how to make them a trio. So what you'll do is fold down the edge of your paper, roughly about half of the size of your croquis. And you'll want to fold your paper in on each side. Next, you're going to shift your paper over and line up one of those fold lines in line with the center front line of the original drawing. Tape your paper down to secure it, and then we're going to trace this drawing out a second time But this time when we trace it out, we're going to choose 2 different arm placements to change up the look of this second croquis. I'm starting at the bottom up this time, so trace in your line for your foot and then go ahead and trace the outer edges of your hips and trace it all the way down to the bottom of the foot. And in the center where the crotch comes to the point, you'll trace along the outer edge of that leg. And on your right side of the outer edge of the hip, trace along the edge of that line for your second leg that's hidden. Then we'll go back up to the head and trace along the outer edges for the top of the torso. And remember, once you hit the neckline, just make a little parallel line into the circle for your neck. If you notice in this one, I'm skipping around from the bottom to the top, just giving you a different perspective of how to do your drawing. For this and future tutorials, I'll work from top to bottom, but as you're practicing your sketches, you can go in any order, whichever order is the most comfortable for you. That's totally fine. For this second croquis, we're going to trace out this second arm. That's the hand on the hip placement on the left hand side. Then on the right hand side, we're going to trace out this arm that's a little bit closer to the body. And you'll notice that it's the green arms on my original template that I'm tracing out. And for you, it'll be that second color from your original sketch. Let's finish it up with our style line. So at your neck, go ahead and draw that line in straight across. And then go ahead and trace your guideline. So start with the center line, the waistline, and take it all the way down to that crotch point. Go ahead and make your U's for the bum. And if you make a mistake, don't feel bad. Remember that eraser is your best friend. So if your bum comes out too smiley like mine, you can always fix it. Go ahead and trace your princess seam in at the top of the torso. And start at that underwear point and bring it all the way down to the middle. And then go ahead and trace in your princess lines down to the underwear line. All right, all done on that second one. Oh, not quite. Let's draw her heel in. So make the circle at the bottom of the foot. At the top where the triangle is, draw your parallel lines down. And then don't forget the 2 little parallel lines on top of the circle. Okay, now we're done with the second one. And for the last croquis number 3, just go ahead and trace it out. And I'm going to let you choose which arm placements that you want. So for mine, I'm tracing out the green line arm. And I'm going to flip it over to the front and retrace that green arm again. So that way I'll have 2 arms close to the body. And it's okay if they overlap like you see here in my drawing. When I trace back over it in pen, I'm not going to make the 2 hands overlap. One will be hidden behind the other. All right, and once you're happy with your croquis, you can grab your pen and go ahead and trace them out. So trace over the outer edges and the inner edges, all of your style lines to finalize them. Now I'm using a Sharpie pen with a fine point. And of course you can use whatever pen that you have on hand. I'm also going to show you a felt tip black pen that has a thicker line that you can also use. It's roughly about the width of a marker. It just creates a darker line. So that way when you're tracing it out, drawing your clothing on these croquis, it makes it easier to see. But of course, you can use the thinner tip or the thicker tip, whichever you're most comfortable with. And what you'll want to do is hold on to the foundational drawing, so your original croquis sketch that has the 9 head guidelines on it. So those sketches are more of your skeletons or your, again, foundational sketches that you'll trace off with your loose paper, or if you have a sketchbook to keep it in, it just makes it a little bit easier for when you're using it in the future to trace it out. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that thicker tip pen, just so that way you can see how thick the lines are in comparison with the thin Sharpie. And if you notice, as I'm doing the tutorials, I do use a light box. One, to make it easier for you guys to see it on camera, and two, for me to see with my bad eyes. And if you do trace it out with a thicker tip pen or a marker, when you're tracing it out with your paper, it'll make it easier to see, especially if you don't have a light box yourself, or if you don't have a lamp that you can hold kind of close to the drawing on your table. Tracing it out in the thicker line definitely helps you to see it more clearly. If this video has been helpful to you so far, please give it a like and tell me in the comments what's the most difficult thing that you struggle with when it comes to sketching. My goal here is to help you through those pain points, so any questions that you have, feel free to leave those in the comments as well. Let's finish up getting these thicker lines drawn in, and you're going to be amazed at the difference. I'm going to bring another sheet of paper up close just so that way you can see what I mean. So just, and compare it to the finer tip pen and the thicker line on the end. Even without the light box, you can see it. And one other trick that I like to do is pop a second sheet of paper up underneath it, a white sheet of paper, and that just helps the line stand out even more. So even with the thin line or the thick line, that extra sheet of paper behind it just helps the line stand out when you're tracing it for your final drawing. And just so you know, you don't need any fancy tools when you're doing your sketches at all. It's not about your resources, it's about your resourcefulness. So if you have just regular paper, printer paper, a pen, and a pencil, you're fine for all of these tutorials. When you're just getting started off with your sketches, you don't need anything fancy. The basics are okay. I want to show you all one more thing with your croquis trio that you can do. So you can trace them out with your clothes. When you go to draw your clothes, you can trace them out as we drew them here, with the legs going one way, or you can flip your paper over and draw them the opposite way. And that works with any of the base croquis that we did, any of the other drawings that we did from the tutorials. You can draw them face on the right way, or you can flip them over on the opposite side and draw your clothes that way. This just gives you a variety of looks, a variety of different croquis that you can create for your set. And as always, with the foundational sketches, you can use that as your base to change up your arms or your leg position. And in some upcoming tutorials, I'm going to show you how to switch up the leg position as well. So you'll have that for your set. And I'm going to put these together in one big playlist. So that way, if you missed any, you can go back and practice those techniques. On the end screen, I'll leave the link for the front and back still standing croquis. Just in case, if you haven't seen that one, I show you how to build up the foundation for these sketches. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, keep sketching, keep sewing, and keep the momentum going. Take care, y'all.